Hey, this is Shaheedah Hill, and I wanted to bring you this amazing story of a successful 203K homeowner. She's in our first time buyers Facebook group, and I saw her. She's like, I closed. And I was like, wow, what a 203K. I said, I have to have you on the channel to talk about the process because there's a lot of home buyers that want to take advantage. It's a great product that's offered, but it's so complicated. Sometimes people like shy away from it. So she has some tips and tricks she wants to share with us as well. So you might be successful in the 203K process. So Amy, thank you so much for joining me today. Just tell us, when and where did you close? Where do you live, and when did you close your 203K?
So we're in southwestern Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we closed on October 15th, which actually got pushed back twice. So the final date ended up being October 15th.
Okay, good. Congratulations. So you said you closed October 15th, but when did you guys start actually looking for a property and, deciding to do the 203K?
Well, we were in a rental.
Okay.
We had always been in rentals, and we were always dumping money into them.
Right.
And I realized that my credit was not so bad anymore. So I started watching videos from you and, other places on YouTube, but yours really pulled me and they're very informative.
Okay.
And I said, this is like within reach.
Right.
So our furnace actually broke in the rental.
Okay.
And we had no heat, and we were told that they couldn't afford to put a furnace in.
Oh my goodness.
So at that
in
point,
Pennsylvania.
Like, okay. Yeah. At that point, I was like, we need to make some moves, and I'm tired of, putting money into things that aren't ours. So that's when I hit it pretty hard. I mean, I started, working on the credit, getting the credit up to where it needed to be. We started looking in June.
Okay.
And this was the first house that I looked at.
Oh, that's good to know. So June, you started looking.
Mm-hmm.
So June, July, August, September, October. So yeah, only 3 to 4 months was the process. Okay, but how did you already know that you were definitely going to do a 203K?
No.
Okay.
I only realized that after we looked at this house. This house was perfect. I mean, it was one family that lived here since 1940.
Okay.
They raised 10 kids in the house.
Right.
It has so much character. It's just so cute and so fun.
Right.
And I knew that this is where we wanted to be. There's almost 3 acres.
Ooh, that's
I knew.
beautiful.
So when we met with the realtor, she told us, that she knew that there's a huge in-ground pool out back, and it was in terrible condition. And we knew that would needed to be fixed. Okay. Before anybody could do anything. And we also knew that it needed a roof.
You knew it needed a roof.
Right.
So you were, you knew those things needed to happen. So did your agent suggest a 203K?
Not at first. I brought it up to her, and she was like, yeah. Well, actually, I talked to my lender first. I had a lender first.
Okay.
And the lender said, we may be able to do a 203K on this. That's what sparked it in my head. And then I went to YouTube because I'm the type of person that needs information. Like, I need it all.
Right. Gotcha.
So I went to YouTube and I watched hours and hours and hours of video.
Right.
But like I said, there was really none where anybody had done it and, done it for a reason other than flipping a house.
Right. Not to live in the house for your family.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it was tricky. Well, I talked to the realtor, and I believe that she told me that she had never done one.
Okay. Yes. And that was my thing too, where my realtor, I hadn't done one, and the lender hadn't done one in a long time. No. She said she hadn't done one in 10 years or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first lender that I started with, she yelled at me one day. I was accumulating a pile of cash.
Okay.
I had no idea that you couldn't do that. Do not do that.
Right. So she was just saving. Like, you don't want to do that. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So she yelled at me about it, and I was like, I don't get the right vibe from that. I'm new to this. So it hit me the wrong way. So my realtor suggested another lender that she had worked with before.
Okay.
And at that point I switched lenders.
Good. Okay.
And so I think that was
go ahead.
That was the main thing. You have to have the dream team to pull this off.
Yes. I agree. So you have to have a lender, you have to have a realtor that's willing to go through it with you. Yep. And you have to have a lender that kind of knows what to do. So you decided you had the house, you knew what you were going to do. So you put an offer on the house. It was for sale, of course.
We did.
Yes, okay. You put an
So
offer
we
on
did
it.
that. We did that the end of July.
End of July, okay.
Mhm.
And you told the seller, the seller's agent, did you tell them that you were doing a 203K?
We did. And funny enough, he said that he had tried to do it. He was like, I've tried 10 times. None of them ever worked. So good luck.
Okay.
I mean, I'm hoping for the best.
Okay. So other people had tried to maybe buy the house with the 203K and it never worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That was good to know. So you're like number 11 and they're like,
Yep.
good luck.
We're doing
Okay.
it. Well,
So-
here's the thing. And here's
Go ahead.
here's a trick that I had figured out. We had like an inspection report.
Yeah.
And the pool was a big thing. The roof was a big thing. But then there was a pile of little things.
Okay.
Now we know the 203K, only like 10% can be sweat equity.
Yes.
But that's if it's included in the 203K.
Okay.
We didn't pay any mind to those little things. There was like, we have a big block garage and it needed scraped and painted. There was a few wires that like needed moved. If it's things that you can like run to Lowe's and handle in 10 minutes, I would suggest not including that, because when it comes time to do appraisal, it's going to be like the subject to appraisal anyway.
Right.
At that point, you can ask the seller to fix those small things, or you have an opportunity to fix them.
Okay. I get what you're saying. So instead of having this long thing that you're going to
This
give to
huge
the
list.
lender of all these little things that need to be checked, and that's good to know.
Right.
Focus on the major thing. So it's not as much for the lender to have to go through to say, okay, should we approve this with all these little things?
Right. Because you have to appraise, your repairs and the price, the cost of the house. Basically, you have to be in that appraisal window. So if you put too many repairs in there, you may not be able to appraise for the right amount.
Okay.
All right.
So
Yeah. Because if you have a list of 10 things, but you have two major things, and I can talk about it now. The price of the house was $139,900.
okay.
My lender was afraid that we would only appraise for around $145,000.
Okay, which not enough for the repairs.
Right. So I went with, so this is what I decided to do. Ask the seller to pay for the pool. Now, to repair the pool, it would have been about $50,000.
Ooh.
I wanted the house so badly that I was like, let's fill it in. If I decide to
Okay.
dig it out at a later date, that's what I'm going to do. Let's fill it in.
Okay.
I asked them to fill it in. It cost them about $5,000 to just fill it in with, backfill.
Okay.
So they did that. I did the roof. So then, comes the time where you have to find a contractor for the roof.
Yeah.
And that was tricky.
Okay. Oh, let's stop right there. Okay. So you were able to take one of those major repairs off by saying, okay, I don't really need the pool right now, at least. Let's go ahead and fill it in. So then it's not an issue for the appraiser to come and say, well, y'all need this pool fixed.
Right. And I gave it to them. I'm paying your asking price. So can you fill in the pool?
Okay. Good. That makes a lot of sense. And then let's go back a little bit. Y'all can watch my other 203K videos, I guess, on this. But for the contractor, the lender, for everybody, the lender has to approve the contractor. So you have to have the roof fixed. How did you go about finding a roofer? And then how did you go about getting that roofer approved by the lender?
Well, I probably talked to about 20 of them.
Ooh, okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so 20. And what did they say to you? I guess that was my problem too. Some people said the job wasn't big enough, or they didn't want to do a 203K. They didn't want to, what was the feedback you were getting from the roofers?
Probably 15 out of that 20 just ran as soon as I said the words 203K.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that narrowed it down pretty good.
Okay. Okay.
And then out of the contractors that stayed around, we had to stay with the cheapest because again, we were trying to, we wanted to make sure
appraisal.
Okay. Right. So, now he had to do a lot of like back and forth with my lender. He had to do a lot of paperwork. There was probably a 17-page packet that he had to fill out.
Right.
They wanted everything from like his bank information, license, insurance.
And people don't want to deal with it. Like they're like, forget about that. Yeah.
Right.
So
especially
it's a blessing that you're
town,
going to find somebody.
Yeah. Maybe in like a bigger city, it might be a little easier, but in a smaller town, I was going 3 states here. I was going down into West Virginia, over into Ohio. So it was rough.
Okay.
I did find him. We put that in place. Now you have to have the contractor in place before you appraise. So you don't know if you're going to hit that mark or not. We were nervous. We were very nervous.
Yes.
Very. So there was a lot of work on his end, a lot of work on my end. We basically stayed in underwriting to expect to stay in underwriting almost the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
you have
it's
to be
just,
almost perfect, like perfect
Yep.
with your credit. Make sure you're paying things on time. Make sure
I
you're
don't
doing
touch
everything.
anything.
Yeah.
Do not touch anything. Nothing at all.
Right.
Nothing.
Okay. So let me ask you something about the roofer. What made him want to do it? Had he done one before, or he's like, I'll just help you out?
He's never done one before, but he
Okay.
knew he had done a roof for my realtor years ago.
Okay.
So she was like, when I was running out of options, she was like, hey, try this guy.
Okay.
You know, and I think that he basically did. I was almost in tears at this point, and he did it more as a favor. He was like,
Right.
you know, he felt terrible.
Right. Please help me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Please help me.
Yes. Okay, good. So you're in underwriting, you have the contractor. Like I said, finally, after all that paperwork, they approved him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they send the appraiser out.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And that was a scary day.
You're like, I hope it appraises. So, but it did
Well,
appraise.
it took about a week and a half to get the report back. And that was like the most stressful week and a half because we're still in underwriting. So you're
Right.
already stressed.
Yes.
Watch Shaheedah Hill's underwriting video because I watched that thing a dozen times.
Okay.
And then, yeah, we appraised for $162,000.
Oh, that's great. So way above ask.
Right. Way above.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's excellent.
Yeah. So that once you get that appraisal, I mean, you can feel pretty excited at that point. You're moving forward.
You can
but
breathe.
it is like a subject to.
Right.
So basically it said your house is going to appraise at $162,000 once the pool is filled in, the roof is completed, and the front of the garage is scraped and painted.
Okay.
And some wires were moved outside. Okay.
And so all that stuff has to happen.
Right. And that's, you know, had we included that garage and those wires being done by a contractor, that could have put us up to a point where we couldn't be. Right. So by leaving those off and just worrying about the big things, you know, that was a big help because we came out here days after appraisal and we scraped and painted the garage on our own. Okay. Good. So that knocked that off. The wires were fixed. The sellers fixed the wires there. Okay. So, I mean, you know, they say 10% sweat equity, but if you leave some things off that, you know, like I said, are just a trip to Lowe's or Home Depot in a few minutes of your time, right, that can be a huge help because, you know, if it's something you can handle, a contractor may charge you a few $1,000s to do it. Right. Exactly. All right. So you were able to close. So that the appraiser comes back out and just make sure everything has been taken care of, or at least the pool was taken care of before closing. He came back out. Yeah. He wasn't worried about the roof because he had the paperwork. He knew that was going to be done. He did have to check the pool. He checked the front of the garage that was scraped and painted. Okay. And he signed off on it. And then we were able to set a closing date. Okay. Good. Our third closing date. Your third closing date, kids. Keep on moving it back. All right. So now that you closed, now the roof had to be repaired. Did they give them a certain amount of time that the roof had to be repaired? It has to be started within 30 days. Okay. And it has to be completed within 6 months. Okay. But I think that they give that more for like, you know, people that are doing like whole house repairs. Right. A roof is not going to take 6 months. Okay. Yeah. So they started my roof about 2 weeks after we closed. Okay. And I am calling my mortgage company today for the final draw. Final draw. So they can get paid. So the roofer hasn't gotten their final payment yet. No, I got their half down at closing for them. Gotcha. And that they started the work and then they will get the final half probably within a few days. They'll send an inspector out to check the roof and then they'll pay the other half. Right. And that's another reason why a lot of contractors don't want to do it because now they're waiting on their money. So and depending on what kind of business they're running, they don't like to wait on their money. They want their money right now. So right. Especially when they're paying a crew and they're buying material. It's tough. Yeah. Right. So, all right. So I said, answered those questions. I think we've gotten through everything. What is the best advice? So you're in your home now, everything's done, that's agreed to. What is your best advice for somebody that's thinking about, because particularly like the person I was working with, they were approved for 125 and 125 in Atlanta, you're not buying anything move-in ready. So like 203K was his only option really. And so, but it was so hard to maneuver. What is your best advice for somebody like you that's
thinking about a 203K, like what would you advise them to do?
Your lender and your realtor have to have like, I mean, I've heard this phrase before and it's the absolute truth. They have to have like the heart of a teacher.
Okay.
Being yelled at by that first lender over,
Right.
The down payment cash. I had no idea. I had never done this.
Right. Exactly.
I had never done this.
Okay.
I don't even think I knew a difference between a lender and a realtor, to be honest. I guess I thought you just walked in and like
walked in and bought the house.
Yeah,
Right.
bought the house. I knew nothing.
Right.
And it took 3 months of YouTube and reading and having, like I said, the dream team. I had the dream team. They worked together. They knew each other. They stayed in contact. And that's another thing. Keep in contact.
Right.
I know that they were sick of me, but I messaged them. If I went 3 days without hearing from them, they were both getting an email or a text.
Gotcha. Just so you would know what's going on, because you're trying to maneuver too, getting out of your rental situation and trying to see, okay, when will we be in our house?
Right. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, well, we need a backup plan. Like, what if this all falls through? I don't want to wait until the last minute to have a backup plan. So there was a lot going on. It was the most stressful 3 months of my life.
Right. I understand. Yeah. Because if it does fall through, you don't have a place to live, or, you don't want to put your notice in with your lease and just be out and, have no place to go.
Right.
Yeah. So good advice. So we want to have a dream team. You need to communicate a lot, make sure you follow up. And then I guess try to find contractors ahead of time as much as possible, people that are willing to do it.
Going through underwriting too. It's a stressful thing.
Right.
Be prepared to just be totally stressed. When they ask for information, get it back. The sooner that you get it back, the quicker that it moves. You have to have that stuff ready to go and be prepared to be stressed. Be prepared to be heartbroken. It's a tough process, but it's like climbing a mountain. We finally got to the top. We're here and we love it.
Love it. Yeah. It's just like and you own your things. So if your furnace goes out now, you handle it, but it's your house that you're handling.
It's mine. Yeah. Because I could have handled it in the rental, but I was thinking like, what if I do this? What if they sell a house in 6 months? You know what I mean? Like that, those are the things that go through your head. So I just couldn't do it anymore.
You own it. Your family owns it. You have acreage. You could build on it probably. You could build onto it. You just have so many possibilities now that you didn't have before.
Right.
I'm definitely not going to hold you. I know you got a lot going on, Amy, but thank you so, so much for sharing your story and hopefully helping other people that are thinking about this 203K.
Yeah, well, thank you. Like I said, the videos were totally helpful, especially the underwriting video.
Okay. Got you.
She was great.
Okay. Thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.